Today's a great day. I'm going to get right to the reading. I definitely would like to, before I even do that, I'd like to dedicate this video to my mother and to all those who have assisted me over time. Definitely would like to talk about affirmations. That would be believe, accept, no, relax. Believe, accept, no, relax. Believe, accept, no, relax. So that's the confirmations, or should I say, affirmations that I really like, that I confirm, that I work at. And I would like to say that if you have any affirmations that you like, please comment and like and share. And if you have any comments, please share that below in reference to the affirmations that keep you focused and keep you on point. So I'm going to get right to this because this, what I'm about to talk about, is extremely powerful and I really, really like it. So basically, what I'm talking about is something called immortality. And basically, it starts out like this: Spirit never dies, nor is it born. All too often, those who search for the soul's immortality do so in answer to the question, will man live again? And they cloud the issue, for if man be immortal, he never dies, nor is he ever born. And this is the reason why, if you want to find the temple of God, find a man or a woman or a child. That's where it's hidden. So that you can work at whatever it is that you have to do to make that happen in your life. I wanted to get to a part here that says immortal self. One mind, one spirit, one self pervades the universe, and its purpose is to know itself. It is primal stuff, meaning it's from the beginning, first cause of all things, and is engaged in a work of expanding consciousness. Neither space nor time exist in it, for it is infinite, nor does it adhere to any form, for it is all form. It is becoming things. It becomes all things, and each form it creates is an expression of its knowledge of itself. It is eternal now, which is all times past, present, and future. It is one place, which is all places and any place. It is one place, which is all places and any place. It is invisible. It is spirit. It is intelligence. It is mind. It is God. Incarnating into form, it becomes that form. And when the form dissolves, the spirit again becomes universal. It is this in man which is immortal, not the body, not the ego, not the personality, but the self. He who attains toward awareness of the self in life attains toward power from the Upanishads, which is spelled Upanishads, Upanishads. Basically, it says the one self within all becomes different according to what it enters and exists also without. So it's in the inside and the outside. But where its true home is at is in the body of all men, all beings. Self is universal subconscious, which is infinite. All of it exists within each of us, and all of it exists without, for infinity is absolute unity and cannot be divided. It is this that Jesus meant when he said, the Father in me and I in the Father. And very rarely is it taught that Jesus was taught by what's called adapts. These are immortals. But you got to do your research. Nobody can do that but you, unless you want somebody else to do your research and you just assume that whatever that you read is true. See, what made me get to the point that I am right now is that if I haven't read like 10,000 pieces of nonfiction or more, wherever I could find it, and it was hard for me to find, that's how I've distilled what it is I know right now, and that I'm also learning not to wait on the next man, to approve what it is I'm currently doing. Self is universal subconscious mind, which is infinite. All of it exists within each of us, and all of it exists without, for infinity is absolute unity and cannot be divided. Therefore, if we would perceive our immortality, we must perceive the timeless being that exists at the center of our consciousness. But whether we attain to this illumination or not, we are immortal still. That means that you don't even have to know the data and you're still immortal. So it can't be taken from you. It can't be stolen. Just because individuals killed the body, that doesn't stop anything at all. Everlasting life is not given to some and taken from others, for we are all one in reality. To him who is held firm in the bounds of ego, the veil will yet be lifted when the physical body dies and the ego ceases its delusion. Then he shall know as he is known, shall see self in self, shall perceive in an instant the vast reaches of infinity. But a degree of this power and perception can be ours in this life if we can only forsake the ego and take unto ourselves the mantle of God. And what I know right now, for those of you all don't really get it, and that is the fact that you can ask God to help you with your ego. Because it goes something like this: knock and the door shall be open, ask and you shall receive. So I wanted to speak about the afterlife. What will the afterlife be like? Will it be like stepping from the consciousness of a gnat into the consciousness of infinity? With the death of the physical body, we shrug off the bounds of conscious mind and ego, lay aside the limitations of flesh, and become one with universal subconscious mind, pervading all times and places. We shall have no bodies in the hereafter, for we shall be all bodies. We shall be in no specific place in the hereafter, for we shall be in all places. We shall not we shall not meet old friends and loved ones in the hereafter, for we shall all be one unified and indivisible, one self, one mind, one eternal I. Like most people, they can't even think, like can't even imagine themselves without a body. Like I'm working on some information that can help me way before this happened, so that I can manifest certain things with the power of what they call the supra normal from within. And like I said before, like I was talking to some people earlier today, what matters is what I believe and what I do good. And I know the difference between good and bad. And when you are there for someone and you really realize that when you really depend on God, he opens up certain chambers within, and you're able to do certain things that otherwise, without God being involved, you wouldn't be able to do. And then also how to conduct yourself in such a way that keeps you humble. Because a lot of times what will happen is people will believe that it's just them. And when that happens, it's a certain term. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but it's something like, it's almost like vanity happens before the fall. Like you be so stuck on yourself and what you doing and this, that, and the other. And then you won't have that protection and that shelter of God. And then you alone. And then everything that could bring you down will. Yeah. The question is sometimes asked, what good is a hereafter like that? Unless a man have a body and five senses and things to accomplish and friends to meet with, what good is it? Wouldn't oblivion be better? And the only answer possible to this question is that oblivion is inevitable for the part of any man that asks that question, for it is the ego that poses it. because the ego wants to be in control. It does not want to get out of the way to allow God to manifest. And see how you know the ego is involved is because the ego is always like I did this, I did that, and then we got ego which is edging God out. It doesn't even allow God to be involved. And when you don't let God be involved and he created you, you ain't got to worry about it. You definitely gonna get smashed up without a doubt. I don't care if you're the fastest, the quickest, the smartest. You got mega cash, the whole nine. And one of the things that is quite often said, and what that said is, I've never seen an armored car in a procession of a funeral, and also coffins don't have pockets. Coffins don't have pockets. You don't need no cell phone. You're done. It is the conscious mind built up of the experience of the five senses that seeks to perpetuate itself, and it is no more than a flower, a bud on the everlasting shoot, flowering in season and withering out of season. Life with it give and take, serve and be served, strive and accomplish, cannot in any manner be compared with the existence in the hereafter. Life is the ego's day in the sun. The thereafter is the eternity of the self. Moments of mystical experience. Space and time and body are the means by which universal subconscious mind seeks an ever greater self-awareness. From infinity, immortal self incarnates in space and time, and what it becomes is an expression of its knowledge of itself. As its idea of self enlarges, it withdraws from body and incarnates again in a higher expression. All evolution follows this path, constantly upward and inward, always increasing in self awareness. To everyone at some time in his life has come the startling magnitude of his own consciousness, perhaps for a second only, and he has been overcome by the question, why do I live at this particular time in this particular place? In these particular circumstances? Indeed, what miracle has caused me to exist at all? And at that moment, he stands very close to the veil. Veil meaning something's being hidden or secret. Almost sees, though, or should I say, almost sees through it, but not quite. Almost understands what is beyond, but not quite. He is startled and a little uncomfortable, seized by a strange sense of vertigo, wondering whether life itself is not the dream, a sleep he has fallen into at some dimly remembered place from which he will awaken at any moment. But usually he shunts aside this rare moment of mystical experience and concerns himself again with the workaday material world, seeking assurance from the solidity of physical objects and the sharp definition of sensory perception. Thus he lives like an ostrich who buries his head in the sands of life, refusing to examine the most miraculous thing of all, his own consciousness, where has come from, where it has come from, and where it is going. Sprung from the everlasting life into life, or should I say, sprung from the everlasting self into life, there is in each child the remembrance of universal subconscious mind. But as his ego develops, as he attains memory of sensory experience and the conscious mind grows, the memory becomes dimmer and dimmer until at last he can recall it no longer, blocked from his view by the posturing ego which clutters the vision of the spirit. So it was that Jesus said, unless ye become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. the animating presence, that which is, was never born, and shall never die, is the very being of each of us. One self, one mind, one life is in everyone. There is no difference between your neighbor and yours except that of ego, of conscious mind, of the thinking process or lack thereof. The difference you perceive is the difference brought about through thought, for your neighbor is a product of every thought he has ever had, even as you are. Since it is impossible for two reactive beings ever to have the exact same kind and sequence of thought, there never has been, nor will there ever be, two identical humans short of union with God. And union with God is achieved by all when the worn house of the body is laid aside at last. It may be achieved in life only when the individual ceases to think in response to the stimuli of the senses and originates thought as the center of consciousness. Then, free of the bondage of the flesh, he achieves power, control over all the circumstances of his life. And that's the reason why these videos are so important. And that's the reason why my pursuit is so one centered. Everyone knows that he exists, and not simply because he observes other individuals responding to him. That which he feels himself to be, he knows as consciousness lying within his body, yet not his body. He observes other animated beings around him and correctly supposes them to be possessed of the same kind of consciousness as he, and he further observes death overtakes the bodies of a few of these beings and notes that the animating presence has departed. The reason why I know so much about this as far as what I've been through is because I worked at one of the largest African American or black funeral homes in Baltimore, Maryland, called March Funeral Home. I'm sure that they're still there. They're located on Asquith and North Avenue and Dukeland and doggone it, I can I can see the street in my mind, but I can't recall. But I know it's right down the street from Morgan State University. I can't remember right now. But my point is this: I've been employed at both, and I remember this one time. I've been in situations where nobody doesn't have any family, and after they finish, dressing a body and the embalming and the whole nine. I've sat in the like cathedral type environment of the funeral parlor, funeral home, and I sat there for so long because it's really really quiet, and they got like these rugs that deaden sound, that you could actually feel that whatever that was animating in the body is no longer there. And that's just what this is talking about. So that's like direct experience. And that's the reason why I know about that. And I also know, other than remembering the person through a memorial, whatever that was in the body is not in the body. And I can just also say this: the funeral business is one of the greatest ripoffs since they start doing bodies. And here's the reason why I know this. Generally, when people lose their loved ones, they're the most vulnerable. And that's when these funeral homes, uh, how can I say, like, bill you with all these different kind of bills and whatnot for the urn and the flowers and all this other crazy stuff. And then they get so slick with it, right? Because they even got a directory for for what do you call that? Like not so much morticians, but funeral directors and their businesses and how they have to incorporate in the whole nine. And they have the ability to file a lien against anything that the person who passed or even the family, like they'll put a lien against your house, and they will pursue it, no doubt about it. They call the term predatory. Predatory. So it says here, the animating presence has departed when the body is no longer alive, technically, medically. He does not see where the presence has gone and is mystified, for he does not know it has simply left or has suddenly ceased to be. He further observes that this condition of death or departing or departure of the animating presence of the body, which is inevitable to all forms of life and thus is inevitable to him, and he vainly tries to peer beyond that event in order to determine if he might not still continue to exist after his body has ceased to function. And therefore, the veil is too great for him, for he cannot imagine an existence without his body. And so at last he throws up his hands in despair and decides that his consciousness resulted from the fantastic array of circumstances that produced this particular body, and that on either side of birth and the grave, there's nothing but oblivion, which is not true. But no man completely accepts this delusion, no matter how vociferously he may proclaim it, no matter how valiantly he assumes to face this horrid assumption. There is something in him that knows differently. That something is self, divine self. The presence that animates that body animates his body, birthless, deathless, ageless. It knows its immortality. So I'm going to continue with this tomorrow. This is long enough. I know exactly where I'm going to start at. Um, I just wanted to say that I'm doing a lot of, a lot of research, a lot of studying, got some great and awesome plans, and building this relationship with God that is, like, to me, like, incredible. I never really thought I'd have this. There's even a painting called Footsteps, right? So what Footsteps is about is it shows the beach, and there's footsteps in it, and a little bit up from the footsteps it shows the shape of what would be Christ, and this essence that's Christ is carrying this individual. When you think you carrying yourself, and you can clearly see that individual's out of it, that's called footsteps. That's how God carries us, and we don't even know it. And I'm, like, working really, really hard at this relationship, because I've come to realize it ain't just for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and I'm learning a great deal, something like Marco Polo, in terms of what's possible in an environment, and just seeing how people who don't look like me, they see no connection, no, I mean, like, they in their own world, like, they, like. So I said to myself, I said, Lord, I said, could you please guide and direct me amongst my own, even those who may look like me, who may be unconscious, because I know why. So what I work at the Lord doing in my life is showing me how, not me personally, but how that essence of Christ can work with the individual, and show them how to give themselves back what they thought that would either never come back, or something to the effect that they never really thought existed. That's what this whole situation is all about. You know what I'm saying? And so I already know deep in my heart certain keys that I'm currently applying, which is no reason really technically to even say it right now, because it seems so outlandish. It looks like it's never going to happen, but that's part of the illusion. That's part of the delusion. Delusion. Um, and the main thing I work at is staying in prayer. And I thank everybody who's listening to this video, that maybe one will get something out of it. And I'm going to continue in that walk. Until tomorrow.